there's even like entire stretches of that series where they're just like, no colors. Colors are not serious.
Colors are for pussies.
Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself.
Are a toy!
Yeah, baby!
Here is the path to the dark side.
You are here for me to enlighten you.
I wouldn't say I've been missing it, Bob.
And one time, at band camp,
I see dead people.
First rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about Fight Club.
If I don't make it out of here, don't put me down for mummification.
But I don't want your life.
Hello.
I hate the way you talk to me and the way you cut your hair. I'm also just a girl standing in front of a boy.
I know Kung Fu.
Welcome to 1999, the podcast. I'm John Brooks.
And I'm Julia Sermons.
Well, following up on our discussion of Bicentennial Man from a couple weeks ago, today we will be talking first about the 28th highest grossing movie of 2001, opening June 29th, and earning $235 million worldwide on a $100 million budget. Directed by Steven Spielberg, written by Spielberg and Ian Watson, based on the story Super Toys Last All Summer by Brian Aldiss, with a score, unsurprisingly, by John Williams and cinematography by Janusz Kaminski. More about him later on, and adapted from a concept and story developed by Stanley Kubrick. Kubrick and Spielberg worked in close collaboration to bring the film to life prior to the former's death in 1999, and the end result is a marriage of the two directors' visions and styles. Speaking of 1999, it stars two of 1999's Best Supporting Actor nominees, two among the three who probably should have won: The Sixth Sense, Haley Joel Osment, and The Talented Mr. Ripley's Jude Law, along with Frances O'Connor, William Hurt, Sam Robards, Brendan Gleeson, Bicentennial Man himself, Robin Williams, and a whole host of tiny roles from other notable actors, including Paula Malcolmson, Galaxy Quest star Enrico Colantoni, and Adrian Grenier. In this episode, we'll be talking about AI, artificial intelligence.
when's your birthday? I never had a birthday.
His name is David.
I feel it.
That's creepy. Whoa, that's so real.
In a distant future, in an age of intelligent machines, he is the first robotic child programmed to love and coexist as a member of a family. His is a tale of humanity and a journey to find his place among humans and machines.
I'm a boy.
You are a real boy. At least as real as I've ever made one.
So, Julia, what is AI about?
It's the semi-distant future, and the polar ice caps have melted. Professor Hobby, played by William Hurt, unveils David, Haley Joel Osment, the first kid capable of genuinely loving his owners. First android kid capable.
First android kid, not kid, period.
Genuinely.
Yeah.
Other kids do it.
Different kind of movie,
Yeah.
if that was the case.
Okay, so he's an android capable of loving his parents. David is given to Henry and Monica Swinton, Sam Robards and Frances O'Connor, whose actual son Martin is in a coma. Monica activates David's permanent unconditional love imprint, which is basically robot Stockholm syndrome that can never be undone. Naturally, Martin wakes up from his coma. Things get tense between the two boys. After a pool incident and a birthday party incident, Monica panics and abandons him in the woods along with his robot teddy bear sidekick, Teddy. Before dumping him, she told David the story of Pinocchio, which David takes very literally. He becomes obsessed with finding the blue fairy from that story so he can turn into a real boy and win back Monica's love. David and Teddy fall in with Gigolo Joe, played by Jude Law, a suave robot sex worker on the run from the cops for a murder he didn't commit. Together, they barely survive the terrifying flesh fair where humans destroy obsolete robots for entertainment. Eventually, David meets Professor Hobby and learns an uncomfortable truth. He is not unique, but just the first in a line of products. David tries to drown himself, but Joe saves him before getting arrested. David and Teddy find a statue of the Blue Fairy at a sunken Colding Island attraction. David begs her to make him real for 2,000 years straight until the world freezes over and advanced alien beings from the far future dig him out. These beings can read David's memories, and they grant him one wish, a single day with a cloned, resurrected Monica. David gets his perfect day. Monica tells him she loves him, and then she falls asleep forever. David, having finally gotten what he wanted, lies down beside her and goes to sleep too, presumably for the first time ever.
One quick thing. I don't think they're aliens. I believe
you think they're androids?
Canonically, I'm pretty sure it's established that they are, like, humans all died, but androids kept living because they didn't need the same conditions as humans, and so they kept evolving, and they are evolved androids into like this new species that looks a lot like aliens because Spielberg is fucking obsessed with aliens. So I'm pretty sure that's what that is, which is why you can see all their like circuitry and wiring and shit, like, you know, in the underneath their like weird translucent skin. But yeah, that's always been like a very kind of a point of contention among people,
whether they are aliens or not.
Yeah. Like people who saw it just sort of assumed they were aliens, and like Spielberg's like, no, that's not the point. There's no aliens in this particular movie, like the one movie where he doesn't have aliens. So I know you think Spielberg, it must be aliens, but I don't think.
And I got Disclosure Day in my mind, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, everybody.
And Close Encounters and E.T. and the fourth, whatever. Anyways, I would make the case that Spielberg's career can be divided into three reasonably distinct phases. The first beginning with his early successes, marrying prestige with popular entertainment and the likes of Jaws, The Color Purple, Close Encounters, the Indiana Jones trilogy, and E.T. The second being his string of audacious and massive in scope big budget movies like Hook, Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan, and of course AI, which in many ways marks the end of this second phase and the beginning of the one where Spielberg would, for better or worse, take more stylistic and tonal diversions from those he honed over a quarter century, giving us the likes of The Terminal, War Horse, Catch Me If You Can, Minority Report, The Fabelmans, The BFG, and the second movie we will discuss today, this summer's Disclosure Day. In 1993, after working with a series of accomplished cinematographers who more or less allowed Spielberg to keep a signature aesthetic, like Dean Cundey, who shot both Hook and Jurassic Park, Spielberg chose then 34-year-old Polish director Kaminski to shoot Schindler's List. Kaminski's distinct visual preferences would go on to change the Spielberg aesthetic forever, as his high-contrast, low-saturation style would become ever more pronounced in Spielberg's work. AI was the pair's fifth collaboration, and one where the aesthetic preferences of both, including Spielberg's love of ambient blue light, are on full display. The film was, by and large, more of a critical than commercial success. It holds a certified fresh rating of 76 on Rotten Tomatoes and a Metacritic score of 65. The review from the Chicago Tribune's Michael Wilmington is scored a 100, and he calls it, quote, pure magic, a 3-act movie fantasy that transports us, as the best films do, to a world of its own, a place of ambiguous joy and delirious terror. Commenting on Spielberg's efforts to hold true to the film Stanley Kubrick never made, William Arnold in the Seattle Post-Intelligencer wrote, quote, the movie is exactly what it's billed to be, the successful blending of two distinctly different filmmaking sensibilities from two different generations. But the stronger and more pessimistic sensibility, Kubrick's, carries the day. And in the New York Times, A.O. Scott wrote that, quote, AI is the best fairy tale, the most disturbing, complex, and intellectually challenging boy's adventure story Mr. Spielberg has made. Once again, he asks us to identify with a young boy exiled from the only home he knows and forced to find his way in a strange and unsympathetic world. But the movie was famously divisive, even among critics, and it had its real haters, including San Francisco Chronicle's Mike LaSalle, who concluded, quote, "The middle of AI tries its audience patience, yet it's nothing compared with what follows in the last section. Without going into detail, the most vicious parodist of Spielberg could not devise anything more precious, more shallow, and more patently ridiculous. It's almost worth seeing it just to see how bad it is. Almost. AI may be an interesting failure, but it's a failure." Okay, so it's been 25 years since AI came out. I hadn't seen it in a long time, and a lot of the stuff in it, I was like, "Oh, this is weirdly prescient."
Yeah,
in ways I didn't really expect it to have been. But you had not seen it before, so why don't you start by your reaction?
Yeah, I was really kind of amazed by this. I found it like just kind of stunning in a way, I guess I would say, and like in multiple senses of the word. And I think the Kubrick influence, I don't know if this is what is responsible for what I experienced, but like the movie is kind of like deeply perverse in a way.
It's a like consistent sense of menace, right? That is like always in the background of Kubrick's movies, right? I know exactly what you mean. Yes.
And it kind of made me think of actually Straight Story in a way as like a mirror image straight story.
That's a good. Yeah.
Because like
if
that very like wholesome, not wholesome, but very kind of like sentimental movie, only works because it's David Lynch directing it and he brings a certain kind of like darkness to it, then I think like Spielberg bringing his, I guess I'll call it schmaltz, to this, like creates this interesting tension between like what is, I found like genuinely very moving and then also genuinely very creepy at the same time in a way that I think is quite powerful. Yeah.
I think the weird thing, the way that Spielberg, I think very, I don't know how he does it, honestly, like how he channels Kubrick's sensibility here so well, but the way that he is able to sort of like bring Kubrick into this movie and defer, I think, in a lot of ways to Kubrick's sensibilities while also presenting his own. The contrast between the, let's call it schmaltziness, but it's more of like a warmth, right, to Spielberg. There's a humanity like that underlies a lot of his work, whereas Kubrick wasn't necessarily a pessimist, but like his work definitely focuses on the sort of coldness of existence, right? And humanity's worst and all that sort of thing, while also being weirdly optimistic in a lot of different senses. Like those two contrasts, I think actually like do a magical thing with this movie that really is contrasting humanity as a species versus humanity as like a concept, right? And like robots as a concept versus robots as a thing that are trying to achieve humanity, and like that sort of constant unease, right, that is like at the bottom of this movie, I think is also sort of weirdly enhanced by the fact that you have these two contrasting styles, right, that are sort of like existing side by side but never quite coexisting, which is like really great for the theme of the movie.
I don't know, for me, like there's a way in which this is like a parable for like the way children's love is like so demanding of a parent and so intense in a way that's seemed actually kind of dark to me. And I did feel like there were moments where they did coexist a bit, like the last day, David's last day with Monica, like I cried quite a bit while also feeling like this is quite fucked up.
Yeah. Yes. Right. Like that sequence, which to me, so I don't want to jump ahead too much here, but I guess like we should talk about the ending, because if you weren't there for the internet discourse, the internet, it's like infancy at the time, but like the internet discourse in 2001, the film bros who insisted they understood Stanley Kubrick were like, well, Kubrick would have ended the movie with him like lying at the bottom of the ocean, and like the last part is all Spielberg. And like, that's first of all not true. Like, that coda, the third act, is part of Kubrick's story. He wanted it that way. And also Kubrick famously like is not his movies don't like end ambiguous. Like, he's not into ambiguity. Kubrick like pulled a thread until it ran out. You know what I mean? Like, in every single one of his movies. And so the idea that he's like going to keep carrying on this concept of like this robot trying to achieve humanity, even like through and after death, right? It has Kubrick all over it, but especially that sequence, which is at once incredibly moving and sad, but also like deeply disturbing, and sort of what it, like, on the surface it's very moving, but like in terms of a literal read of it, like incredibly upsetting and disturbing, right? Which again is kind of the whole mood of the movie, right? All the way through, it's like at once moving, but at the same time like always unsettling and like fucked up. Right? In terms of like what we can create and why, right? Like, that's which again, like, pretty prescient.
Yeah. And I mean, I think also like they're, like a lot of Monica and David's interactions in, version 1.0 in their real life together were also kind of strange and creepy.
Oh yeah.
So it felt like it just seems kind of like quite dark, and like things it is kind of latently saying about parents and children.
What do you think it is saying? I mean, I know you haven't had 25 years to think about it like a lot of us have, but what do you think it is saying about that dynamic?
Well, there's something about the child's like demand of love for, or like this insistence, like that he's almost this like kind of like pit of need, in his assistance, that he needs this this love that he feels is being withheld from him in a way that's kind of like a little bit annoying in ways, and like creepy on one level because of his intensity, and also annoying on another level because of his insistence. And I think, and like the, when he like throws a tantrum when he discovers the other Davids, the Davids that were made after him, and that he's not special. And, him like he's throwing a fit and saying like, I am special. Like that says something. It seems to me implying something about children's kind of like egos and needs for affection that's like quite dark.
Yeah. But also parents, right? Because the whole concept is that these child robots exist to fulfill a parental need for like, loving something. I think it's interesting early in the movie where Monica and what's his name? Henry? Is that the dad's name? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Their son is in a coma or whatever, and she is still treating him like she's reading to him, like treating him as though he is sentient, right? And then she gets like this sentient surrogate son and like can't love it the right way. Like, there's something very interesting about the way that, like, one of the things that I think this movie is exploring is how weirdly selfish and one-sided love can be. But it's also so deeply sort of coded into us that we will do literally anything for it, right? Like, including making an entire sort of race of fake people to love. The thing that I keep forgetting about this movie is the opening speech from William Hurt. And that was the one that really registered with me to like, oh God, like to right now, like people should be cutting out this speech and like spreading it on the internet, because in the age of the tech bro, and with tech people keeping on telling us what it is that we desire and what our deepest dreams are, And I'm like, is that really what we want to do? Like, man, it felt very right now.
Yeah. At least David didn't get anybody to murder anyone else. Which has happened more than once with ChatGPT.
Yeah. Though I did thought, like, one of the things that I found was like, oh my God, this feels so accurate is Dr. No, and the way that let's call it an LLM, right? Like, which is basically what it is. The way you have to ask it questions very specifically and like explain what you mean because it will keep giving you junk answers. I'm like, oh my God. they totally nailed that one. That is absolutely right. But yeah, so like the beginning of the movie, we have William Hurt and he is giving this speech about like what man's deepest desire has always been. And he's like, it is to create a humanoid robot. And we talked about this with Bicentennial Man quite a bit, but it's like, no, it's not. Like, I don't really want to do that, actually. Like, I would love to be able to go to space quickly. Like, that would be cool. Like, finding other planets that we could easily get to, I think would be, like, much higher on that list. But it is the sort of, like, it's the presentation of the pitch and sort of this idea of, like, pushing it into this new era where we can create not just a facsimile of a human being, but one that can authentically love, right? I'm like, oh man, this sounds so much like, you know, like Sam Altman and shit. It sounds so much like the whole promise of people with AI being like, soon it will be self-aware and you can literally like have a relationship with it. And I'm like, I don't fucking know. And like, I'm not sure that that's what we actually really want to do here. But yeah, man, that scene really nailed the 2026 AI tech bro pretty exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because there's like, it's like a truth universally acknowledged that whenever a new technology like this emerges, it will first be used for sex and porn stuff.
Yeah. And it's very upfront about that, right? Like there's an entire city that is just like devoted to that, right? With robots, which is wild. Yeah.
So it's funny that it evolved from that, from like Gigolo Joe into David. And the fact that like, you know, sex stuff isn't enough. You need love.
And that, I mean, there's again, and that feels like a very Kubrick kind of theme as well, right? But like, again, like that is right. I mean, you know, this movie is making a argument, I think, and sometimes it makes it sort of implicitly, but sometimes it just literally comes out and says it, that like basically the only real human emotion is love, and that everything is sort of a variation on that, right? There's a moment where it's like, well, if you can love, you can hate, and it's like, well, yeah, I guess that's true, right? Which I think is like, we'll talk about this later on, but that's one of the reasons why I like this movie and not Disclosure Day, because it does have something that it wants to say, but also like it definitely is very clearly, and I think in a way that is one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen in my life. You know, it's making the slavery parallel, right? And like the dehumanization of things that really, I mean, for all intents and purposes, like should be considered to be human. And like every time I watch it, I forget how genuinely upsetting the Flesh Fair scene is. But man, it is one of the most horrific things that Spielberg has ever filmed.
Yeah, incredibly disturbing. I think, you know, it was really, I mean, just like, and talk about things that are prescient, that just this like mob display of cruelty and just wanting to see things burn for the sake of it. Does also feel very prescient to me. And but then also that like the fact that David kind of basically escapes, because I guess the idea is that no one knows they can make robot kids yet, or that they have made robot kids yet, but like the fact that it's like cute little Haley Joel Osment, they're like can't they can't bring themselves to cheer on his destruction, and that's why he escapes. That is so that was so interesting to me because it seems like it showed the two faces of human nature, which is like if we have some kind of subservient or thing we are able to dehumanize it, then we will deshumanize it with incredible cruelty. But then also we will like cathect onto it, we'll like glom onto it and make it a thing worthy of love and a thing that is to be loved and to be seen as cute. You know, that there are those two polarities of like how we react to like technologies, and all kinds of beings that we see as kind of inferior to us, and that we have those twin reactions.
Yeah.
That seemed like a really smart part of that sequence.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting that this is kind of, that Gigolo Joe describes it as this kind of like necessary purge, that like whenever the robots seem to be wielding too much influence, or I don't know, I guess they don't really talk about so much about them taking people's jobs, do they? Like they don't.
No,
it's presumed,
no.
but they don't actually make that a contention. So that is this like Luddite freak fest. Is also interesting that like that's how people would respond to the fear of being outnumbered or replaced, or maybe even like the hatred of one's own dependence on it, you know, like your contempt for yourself for being enthralled to these technologies or for leaning on them as crutches or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it is in that scene where I think both the metaphor, the sort of like, this isn't really about robots, but then also the like literal, like this also is about robots, like really come together. Where like very clearly, like I just, you can't not think about like Tucker Carlson and like replacement theory, right? Like there, and it does all seem to be driven not by like policy or not by like the idea of being replaced as like workers, but like, this really kind of fascist sense of like humanity and like human superiority. And it's very clearly meant to like evoke, like witch trials and like Holocaust, like, there's very clearly like a genocide element to this. And also just like the display of like pure cruelty, which felt, I think, shocking 25 years ago, but like familiar now, which sucks. But it's one of these really weird things, especially with like the far right, that there is you have like both the Elon Musks who like want there to be a robot in every house, but then they're also like allied with people who are like opposed to like post-humanism. It's very bizarre, and there doesn't seem to be any like real logic to it, which is why I was kind of glad that the Flesh Fair is displayed not as something that is like has a logical drive behind it, but rather is just sort of like people reacting to the sense that there is this like threat that's going to take them over, and like replace them as humans, which feels a lot more consistent with like the basic, sort of anti-immigrant hostility of the last several years. But yeah, that scene hit 25 years ago, and like it hit now. And I think for different reasons, but like it's incredibly fucked up. Like it's so disturbing. And just like the giddiness of it is just so, yeah, it's like, it's genuinely hard to watch.
Yeah, also even that scene like before that, where the scene in which Brendan Gleeson captures all the robots for the Flesh Fair, where like there's this like dump of old robot body parts.
Yeah.
And you see the like bedraggled, incomplete, broken down robots kind of like converge upon this pile of parts and like try and put themselves back together.
Yeah.
It's like that's like, I guess, like a different shade of cruelty or type of cruelty. But the idea that we've so neglected and really discarded these things that we created and really ought to have some responsibility toward.
I also found that like the one thing that stood out to me in a way that I don't think did at the time is the way that it sort of describes what the world is now. That in the opening monologue, like you find out that basically climate change like killed a bunch of poor people, but like, you know, privileged people in the West survived, so it was fine. And I was like, boy, that feels more and more likely, like as time goes on. And I'm not sure that was anything more than kind of a fantasy at the time, but with the exception of, again, the Twin Towers still existing in this vision of the future as they did in Bicentennial Man, because this movie came out like 3 months before 9/11. It like, you know, the thing about sci-fi is that it famously, you know, doesn't tend to age well, but like this movie really does feel like it could have been made yesterday. And that's pretty crazy. I mean, did anything stand out to you as like dated, or like do you agree that it's basically like it's still very relevant?
I wouldn't say dated exactly, but it was kind of weird that the climate catastrophe was sort of not, it doesn't seem to touch anybody's life in any other way other than like, oh, some cities are underwater, all the poor of the earth have died. You know, like nobody in the current world seems to have had to change their behavior in any basic way. You know, like nobody has to go out with gas masks or anything. Like it's kind of like it feels a little like, incidental in a way that just, I don't know, struck me as kind of, it's not the point of the movie, so, you know, it's kind of like, doesn't really matter, but it kind of struck me as like, that's something that was on my mind, is that like, well, the rest of us are still going to be fucked in other ways, you know, so a minor point.
See, I would have agreed with you 25 years ago, but not since COVID. Where I'm just like, oh no, people just completely fucking pretend stuff didn't happen, and just like, if they're alive and they can live their lives, they will move on and not even care and not even talk about it, because like that is what happened, right? Like that to me feels more realistic now than it did at the time.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm too cynical, but like it just feels like, oh yeah, no, people just fucking, they get on with it. And COVID has, you know, where people just don't even talk about the fact that like millions of people died several years ago. I don't know. Maybe it's Kubrickian of me to think that way, but I'm pretty sure it's accurate as to how that would go.
Yeah, I see your point. I take that. People did forget.
I think like the other thing that is interesting about this movie, as in the genre of kind of the like man invents robots and then shit gets fucked up, you know, of which like the Matrix and Terminator are like a part, is that very clearly like the threat here is humans, not robots, right? Like the robots literally just want to like live their lives, and we don't even get the sense, like even when we get to the future and the robots have evolved, we don't get the sense that they're like they genocided the humans, but rather like they missed them. You know what I mean? And they're like fascinated by this group of people, and they think of them as like geniuses who just didn't have what it took to survive, right? The sort of continually, you know, collapsing climate or whatever. You know, I in the number of movies that have happened since this movie where, you know, it sort of suggests that like mankind's creations are necessarily going to turn on them. And that's kind of been the sci-fi sort of philosophy since then. Like the idea that it's not that they turn on them, but that like we really shouldn't have fucking done this in the first place. And it's, you know, the disastrous consequences are not the fact that they become violent and overthrow us, but that like they also want humanity and we refuse to give it to them, right? And I think that's like, you know, again, something that feels much more consistent with like the way things seem to be going as far as technology goes.
Yeah, and there's an idea that like, I mean, Bicentennial Man is just like not anywhere near as good a movie as this one is.
No,
but like it's the same idea that it was like it would be inevitable that robots would be curious about humanity and would want to share in it, you know, and that it was like nobody seemed to have like predicted that or cared.
right.
And I think you see that a lot, I think, actually in Gigolo Joe, who's really kind of like the only other robot we spend a huge amount of time with, other than Teddy, I guess. And that like he's quite uncanny in a lot of ways, and he's quite slick in the way that you might expect a sex worker to be stereotypically.
Yeah.
But there's also some kind of feeling to him, and like when he delivers that monologue to David about how the humans made us too fast, or, you know, like too good and too fast or whatever, that there's there seems to be like real kind of like feeling behind that in a way that made me really appreciate that character as someone who's like both not human and also very human in some ways. And that tension, which we also see in David to a certain degree, it is kind of central to the ethical, moral conundrum of creating humanoid robots.
Yeah. And so this, speaking of Gigolo Joe, with the caveat that I only just wish he had more to do, like this is one of Jude Law's best performances ever. Like he's in a similar way, and like we'll get to this soon, but like the one thing that I really do think is good about Disclosure Day is Emily Blunt, but like in a very similar kind of way. Like the way that this performance is so it's just so like perfect in all of the mannerisms and the movements and the way he embodies this character, and like the way that he is able to convincingly exist in this like space between humanity and robot, right? And like, and it's in these like really minor looks that he gives and these very small gestures, like there's just something about like you really understand that like dual tension within him of a guy who like really loves being alive, loves his life, but then also like never forgets that he is the creation of other people who are there. It's like there to serve a purpose. And like, it's just such an interesting, like, I mean, the physicality of it's incredible. Like the way he moves in this movie is amazing. Like everything about the performance is great, but like, it's the subtlety of it too, that I think is what makes it better than like it could have been with a different actor. Right. It's just sort of like, he just knocks this one out of the park for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think just like the total definition of uncanny, right?
Yeah.
Just like like the same, but not in a really creepy way, like human, but not in a kind of creepy way.
I mean, the cheekbone makeup alone is like, ugh. Like you don't need to pronounce Jude Law's cheekbones, but like, and yet they do, and that sort of like pushes it into this new territory. Yeah,
yeah, and it's a total cliche. Right, the idea of the male sex worker who just loves pleasing women, and like that's his destiny in life and his mission. But then like the fact that it's him taking this kind of pride in this like pride of mastery, but also this pride in like what is essentially like servicing humans in this very fundamental way. Just adds to those kinds of tensions in the character and in his, you know, robotness versus humanness.
Yeah. I mean, I love Jude Law. Like I'm a Jude Law stan. So,
yeah.
You know,
I mean, yeah, I actually, not for this podcast because we've done it already, but did recently rewatch Talented Mr. Ripley. And yeah, he's just amazing.
He is. And like, you know, Existenz as well. Like the fact that those two movies happened in the same year, like just very, very different sorts of performances, and very different kind of Jude Laws. But yeah, he's incredible. I also like, you know, having now watched The Sixth Sense a number of times, like the other thing that really stands out to me here is, as good as Haley Joel Osment is as a child actor in The Sixth Sense, like his growth as an actor, just in these 2 years, and still, very much a child, in this movie is pretty remarkable. Like, this is a better performance than The Sixth Sense, but it's also one that's far more demanding. Like, he really does have to carry this movie, and he also has to be weird and kind of off-putting, while also being charismatic and someone that we ultimately do root for, right? And are siding with. And that's a really hard tightrope to walk. And I just think he is just, this is the performance, as far as I'm concerned, that people should remember him for, more than The Sixth Sense.
Yeah, I can see that. I think it's it's almost like this parody of child acting that you have to, the extra cutesiness, the mawkishness, the direct appeal for adult attention in this kind of twerpy way. You have to, that requires such dimension to a performance in a way that you don't see with a lot of child performances.
Yeah And Gleason's good in this movie. He's very sinister. He's very disturbing. Everybody else can kind of I don't think anybody else really needs to be there. Frances O'Connor is fine. She understands the performance, the assignment. She does it fine. The kid who plays the brother is appropriately shitty. But it's littered with all these. It's so. I mean, and Hurt is obviously very good, but he's just playing a William Hurt character, honestly. So the rest of it's kind of littered with weird one-liners and very famous people just being there to say Chris Rock shows up, and the Robin Williams thing, and Enrico Colantoni is the guy who murders his prostitute girlfriend or whatever, and we never even see his face. It's very strange. I wonder if there's something deliberate about that, right? About Spielberg casting very famous people for these roles that don't mean anything, and if there's some kind of, I don't know, layer of the sort of thesis of the movie that is woven into that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's something about kind of charisma and what attracts people to other people or beings, and maybe why that's dangerous, but then also maybe just kind of again uncanniness, it's sort of there's this feeling that having big stars in certain roles, this kind of takes you out of the movie, but I could see being taken out of it as being kind of useful here.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what I was kind of getting at, because the notion of uncanniness is really also sort of pervasive in the movie. One of the things that when the friends are kind of prodding at David, they're all mesmerized by how real he looks, and they're they're not used to a robot that looks that passes the uncanny valley, right? And that's that, and with the flesh fair scene that you were mentioning, it's as though that fact, when you pass the uncanny valley, has this trigger effect in people where suddenly they are willing to grant you humanity just by the fact that you sort of look like you belong, right? And I think that is both probably true, but also again a very disturbing revelation. But I think you're probably right. The reason why we've got one line from Meryl Streep, right? In this movie as well is exactly what you're saying.
Well, I mean, we could talk about the cinematography since you brought it up, and just that creates a level of uncanniness also.
And it works for this movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Just the kind of color palette, and then also the the way like images are superimposed on one another, and the kind of whole way that the universe is constructed as kind of like the future, but also kind of tinged with a kind of nostalgia almost, I kind of want to say. That like again, it's like giving you that more layered experience of the movie and of what it's trying to say.
I completely agree. I think that, I have a lot of thoughts about Kaminsky, and the worst of it, I think, really is more visible by the time you get to Disclosure Day. But I do think that in the first few movies they made together, right? Like Schindler's List is black and white, and of course the contrast is really essential there. And I think that Kaminsky's particular skills as a cinematographer like work really well when it comes to that film. Then The Lost World is basically like he's just kind of shooting it the way they shot Jurassic Park. There's not really a lot of his particular style there, but we really do start to see Kaminsky's particular aesthetic like start to kick in here. And it really is in the same way that like Spielberg and Kubrick are sort of in sort of tension in this movie. It really is like the very like deeply colorful sort of backlit, like vibe that Kubrick loves with the ambient blue light, like fighting against this like very almost kind of like dreamy, like soft palette of Kaminsky. And I completely agree. Like it gives it a kind of a surreal, almost dreamlike quality that makes the film work, because it makes it very clear like it's not necessarily like this exists in the world, but it's also fundamentally like a fairy tale. Like it really is like it's meant to be surrealist. Like it's not grounded in the way that like some sci-fi is. It puts the sort of like the ideas first, right? And it's not necessarily like set in a familiar world, just one that's like unfamiliar enough to be creepy, right? To give it that like that dreamlike quality. But I actually love the way they work together in this movie.
Yeah, it's just like really, for their moments where it just kind of really like took my breath away.
Yeah.
And then they're, like Rouge City, the like sex tourism haven or whatever, where they go to ask Dr. No about the Blue Fairy. That felt really kind of like well and fully rendered to me as like a vision of the seedy part of the future.
Why'd you say that?
I guess because I just felt like there was a lot of thought put in visually about kind of like, okay, what would this mean? Like what would be the kind of different types of things that would be pleasures that would be on offer here?
Uh-huh.
And like what would the, how would the robots look and how would the humans look? And I just felt like a lot of thought was put into it, and it was given like a certain texture in a way that kind of made you feel like, oh, of course, like talking about like, of course people would use robots for sex stuff. Like, of course they would imagine it like this.
Yeah.
Like it'd be kind of Vegas, but not exactly
right. That's what I was going to say. It's not so far from Vegas that it's like unfathomable. Right. And then when you combine that with kind of like the sort of modern internet tech culture and like the fascination, especially with a lot of people in general, but like specifically a lot of people who are sort of techno fascists with like anime and manga and like the influence that has on Rouge City. It feels like something that seems entirely like plausible and well thought out, completely. I also like one of the things that I think is really interesting about this movie specifically is the way that, as I mentioned, this as being sort of like the end of phase 2 of Spielberg. The way that I sort of think of it is that it also is a real turning point, I think, for John Williams, in that the score to this is great, but it is also like very understated. And John Williams is often kind of, I don't know, maybe unfairly thought of as someone who can be overly bombastic and whose music can kind of take over a movie. And I think in certain cases that's true and like by design. But here, I think the sort of soundscape that he creates really enhances the movie. And it's just a very sort of like beautiful, minimalist score. And I think it sort of, presages some of the things that he would go on to write after this, which is very much not like the score to Catch Me If You Can, which is like very jazzy, very much not the sort of like Hook, Indiana Jones, right? Like Star Wars, Jurassic Park, John Williams that people are familiar with. But, this is one of his best scores. I really love. Like I wouldn't listen to it on my own, but like it really works for the movie here.
Yeah, totally. I was actually kind of like, I mean, it's Spielberg, so John Williams is a likely bet, but I was actually surprised that it was him.
Yeah, I mean, it is always him until he dies. He is, I think, 93 now. But he just wrote the score to Disclosure Day, which woof. But I'll get to that in a second. AI still holds up, is probably more relevant than ever. And if you've never seen it, go see it. But do you have any last AI thoughts?
No, I think that's it. Like, if you definitely see or rewatch, it's watch it and don't watch Bicentennial Man. That's about it.
Sure. Yeah. It's not breezy, but it's a fairly quick 2 and a bit hours. It doesn't feel overly long at all. It feels like it earns its length, but it's a hard watch. Like it's a reason why it wasn't a blockbuster hit. Like it is disturbing and it is like tough to watch. Sometimes. Before we move on though, I want to ask you one thing, because like this is the thing that was the major point of contention, right? When the movie came out, did you think the movie was going to end when the Wonder Wheel like fell on him at the bottom of the ocean during like the Ben Kingsley monologue?
No, I didn't. But I think only because I was like, this is a Spielberg movie. It can't end here. I mean, I take the point that I don't know. You said it's like factually not true that Kubrick wanted to end the movie with David's suicide or a suicide attempt. But also, like, I think it wouldn't be as interesting a movie.
No.
Like it would be, if we didn't have that last day with mommy.
Yep.
It would be a much less disturbing film in a way. Like it'd be maybe more nihilistic, but it would be. It would not be as accomplished a movie.
Yeah, I've had this argument like very loudly many times over the last 2 decades, and like, like so many people who were like, it should have ended there, and I'm like, but why? Like, I know it feels like that's a very profound, ambiguous ending, and I think people like that, but I'm like, that's not what the movie is, and like, a different movie ends there, I guess. But like, it really would. I mean, it would seem very like bleak, and I suppose open ended and whatever else. But like,
see, I think it would be closed. It would be like closed ended, because like we know. We
but,
know
like,
the blue fairy
what does
isn't
it
real.
mean? Right. But like, what does it mean open ended? Whereas like the movie is like, no, here's what it means, and like it gives you the last act where it's like, this is what the movie is trying to say, right? That like being mortal does not make you human, right? But like, mortality is part of it, but there's more to it than that, and it's very like, that's the movie it is. And I think it would have been annoying and fine if it ended where people wanted it to, but like, no. I think that like that scene with Monica, like that's what it's about. Like that's what everything leading up to this has led up to. And like, you gotta follow it through to the end, man. You can't just leave him hanging at the bottom of the ocean.
It's not like David gets what he wants fully, right? Like
because nobody
experiences his version of mortality, and of the finality of or the fact that you can get what you want, but in a kind of upsetting way. right, or for a limited time. Like he experiences time as finite in that one through resurrected Monica's brief window of life.
Yeah.
And so it's quite complicated. It's not just wish fulfillment.
No.
So I feel like, like if we know that there is no real blue fairy and that David is not one of a kind. So I guess we don't have it confirmed that there are many, many other Davids specifically, but we know his wish will not be fulfilled in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So like it would kind of be totally expected to end that way. And I think less intellectually and ethically complex.
Yeah, this is a case of more is more, like for sure. Like this is a more is more kind of movie, and more is more here. Okay, so then also let's move on to the movie to which this movie is talked about in the same breath in a lot of reviews and in a lot of essays about it, as though they are part of, I think, Spielberg trying to wrap in a whole bunch of elements of previous movies to make something different and new, or sort of a punctuation mark. I don't know how to put it. There's a scene in the beginning of AI where we first meet David, and the way that it is shot suggests for a second that he is an alien that is sort of reminiscent of the alien-like evolved robots at the end of the movie. And again, this I think is Spielberg's obsession with the very idea of like alien life and what makes us human and blah blah blah. And I think it's a very clever shot because Spielberg likes to reference his own movies pretty frequently. So anyway, Disclosure Day. So Disclosure Day came out this summer. Also did well with critics. It has an 80 on Rotten Tomatoes and a 74 on Metacritic. Stars Emily Blunt, Josh O'Connor, Colin Firth, Eve Hewson, Coleman Domingo, who gets nothing to do in this movie, Wyatt Russell, and the great Elizabeth Marvel, who could read a phone book and be engaging. This time also reuniting Spielberg, not just with Kaminsky and of course John Williams, but Jurassic Park screenwriter, as well as the writer and director of 1999's Stir of Echoes, David Coep. All right, so this one's a little... I know this was hard for you to figure out how to put into words because this movie changes its mind every 5 seconds. But best as you can tell, what is Disclosure Day about?
Okay, well, this is a Spielberg movie, so aliens are real.
Mm-hmm. Aliens are definitely real, guys. Area 51, real. Roswell, real. Everything's fucking real. Aliens are real. All right, yeah, go ahead.
For decades, a shadowy government contractor named Wardex has been keeping this under wraps, as well as interrogating and torturing aliens and extracting their technologies. Cybersecurity expert Daniel Kellner, played by Josh O'Connor, steals classified Wardex files, as well as a glowing alien doohickey, and then seems to trade them back to the Wardex chief, Noah Scanlon, who's played by Colin Firth, in exchange for his kidnapped girlfriend, Jane, played by Eve Hewson. But Daniel manages to run off with both Jane and the evidence. Scanlon sincerely believes that if the public learns the truth about alien existence, civilization is going to collapse into hysteria. So he straps himself into some mind control tech and puppeteers Jane's body to track Daniel down. Meanwhile, in Kansas City, meteorologist Margaret Fairchild, played by Emily Blunt, has a cardinal fly into her kitchen and stare at her, which activates some alien stuff inside of her. She spontaneously speaks Russian, Korean, and then makes alien clicking noises live on television. The clip of that goes viral, and it seems that both Daniel and Margaret were abducted as kids and secretly mentally rewired by aliens. Daniel for math, Margaret for empathy,
The two
And
genders.
the idea behind this plan, apparently the reason for this was that they can together convey alien messages to humans.
Mm-hmm.
So Wardex is then hunting both of them down. They are both aided by Hugo, played by Coleman Domingo, who is a Wardex defector running an underground resistance out of a warehouse and is building an exact replica of Margaret's childhood home for reasons that will later become clear.
Fish. Mm-hmm.
So he's trying to jog Margaret's repressed memories of her abduction, and then she and Daniel are able to recall the night of the night of the abduction when friendly woodland creatures, aliens disguise themselves as friendly woodland creatures to approach them and not scar little children. Everything wraps up basically back at Margaret's Kansas City TV station, where they are eventually able, even though Scanlan tries to thwart them, they are eventually able to broadcast all the years of files and footage about alien existence to the entire planet. Scanlan sits down and watches his life's work evaporate on the monitors. Hugo produces his real trump card, an actual alien he's been hiding, who delivers a burst of math to Daniel. Daniel can decode it, but he can't feel it, so he passes the message along to Margaret, who turns to the news TV camera and gives humanity its big takeaway in one word: listen. Hard cut to black. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know how well I did with that at all. And now that I mistook the androids for aliens and AI, I don't trust myself at all.
I think they're all aliens, including the wheelchair alien who with the big head.
So I hope I got it close to right.
I think that's consistent with what I remember about this movie that I saw like 2 months ago and hated. All right. So you didn't.
Should we talk about your? Well, I want to hear about your.
Oh my god!
A bit more. We should start there because, I did not love this movie, but I didn't hate it either. So like, you start out with the real case against it, and then I'll qualify it a little bit, maybe.
It is almost impossible to imagine that the three people who are most responsible for like making Jurassic Park work, right? David Coop and Spielberg and John Williams made this. And it's so depressing that happened. I hate the way the movie looks. I hate what Kaminsky does with this movie. There's just like not a color that he's ever met that he likes. It's just an ugly looking movie, honestly. So like aesthetically, I didn't like it at all. Because I genuinely I think the way that Kaminsky has pushed Spielberg into sort of his way of shooting movies over the last 20 years or so has been for the worse. That's kind of the least of my gripes. What makes Jurassic Park really work, right? As a movie is that within so this is a very, I should say this, for all the things you just said, Disclosure Day feels very small. It feels very claustrophobic. It doesn't feel like there's a world happening outside of it. And for a movie that is about, or ostensibly about, like what happens to the world when this world changing thing happens, it seems to not believe a world exists. And that is to me the biggest failing of it from a kind of storytelling artistic perspective. The thing that makes Jurassic Park work so well is that within the 2 hours that the movie exists, it suggests so much more that we never see. that somehow like is woven into the way that we process the movie. We can like, we're always aware that there's this like island full of dinosaurs, even though we're not really seeing them. We're aware that there's this like world around Jurassic Park that if, you know, the dinosaurs ever get off like something, and that, you know, we're in this like secret place. And like, there's so much of what makes that movie work is that there's this world outside of it. There never feels like there's a world outside of Disclosure Day. And like, to me, that's its biggest failing. I feel that like Spielberg has always been very good at this, right? Like E.T., same thing. It's the sense that like it's happening to this one kid in this one place, but like there's worldly implications to what is happening, right? The same is true of like Close Encounters. And so I just felt very suffocated by like the world of this movie in the first place. And then I hated everybody involved. Like I hated all the characters. I hated the whole story. I didn't like any single performance aside from Emily Blunt, who is brilliant, and also Wyatt Russell, who I would just watch do anything. Like he's just a really entertaining actor. Nobody felt human to me at all in this movie. I didn't understand any motivations. I didn't believe any of the backstories. I didn't believe that this secret government contractor agency did and could exist. Like none of it worked. None of it like made sense in the world. And it's trying then to build up to this like, you know, remarkable ground, you know, world changing reveal. And it just all felt completely flat by the end of it. And I couldn't just stop thinking about better movies that Spielberg's made. I couldn't stop thinking about better movies that deal with this idea of like what happens when humans encounter aliens, like what happens to religion, what happens to politics. Like Contact does this a million times better throughout. And yeah, and then there's this like weird magic alien stick that doesn't make any sense. And yeah, that's my top level of like what I hate about this movie. But I could rant forever because there's like a million things.
There are multiple
many
levels. All right, yeah, let's get into it. But yeah, I mean, I think it is weird, and it's something that you almost forget for huge stretches of the movie, which is that like there's this apocalyptic backdrop, right? Mm-hmm. The like we're on the brink of war with North Korea, right? Is I think what's ostensibly happening, and you get that kind of like mad rush on the gas station convenience store scene where Margaret and her boyfriend, his name I forget, I don't even know. Yeah, so I mean, like I think I take your point totally that the world outside it doesn't really exist. The extent the aliens don't. It's weird because I think of Spielberg as pretty kind of like imaginative in terms of like his capacity to think about what alien life might be like. You know, I think that's kind of I feel like that was kind of one of his strengths. And then this is just like it's just like the dudes with the weird heads, the little gray dudes.
He believes that. Like this is the thing, right? This is what's so annoying about this movie. Like he obviously believes those are real. Like he believes in Roswell. He believes in this shit. So like, yes, I completely agree. And also like that is one of the things that's incredibly frustrating about this movie is that he just is straight up saying like, oh no, that's what aliens are. Like. Spoiler, I don't believe that. Like, I don't think that that's real.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess in its mild defense, I thought this was a bit of a mess, but there were parts of it that really did work for me.
Help me out. I want to know what works.
I mean, well, I definitely agree with you on Blunt's performance being the strongest one, and obviously. Yeah. Kind of the most important one for the movie. I did maybe because he's like the math guy and not the empathy guy or empathy gal, I guess. Like I didn't like Josh O'Connor's performance as much as I kind of hoped I would. Mm-hmm. But I feel like once you actually get to the when you the first kind of third of the movie with Daniel and Jane, and like that is a whole relationship I don't really care about, and seems only to exist to say something about religion or something, like that. That it gets off to a rough start, and I think I just liked it because it got better after that. but
that's fair. That is fair. I agree with that point.
I think like Spielberg is still good at kind of like delivering that. Like I hesitated to say the word schmaltz because it seemed more derogatory than I want it to be. But like I think that like, like once Margaret and Daniel meet up and we're kind of like up and running on that part of the story, I did feel like a lot of the magic that Spielberg can bring to this kind of story. And like a sense of kind of wonder and warmth in terms of visiting this kind of material. I don't agree with you that Coleman Domingo had nothing to do, or maybe he didn't have much to do, but what he did, he seemed central to the movie, and that he did really well, and that that he just calling people up and giving them these cryptic orders and then telling them to destroy their phones. And I felt like when he was having those conversations with Margaret and Daniel and whoever else, like he just sort of exuded this kind of intelligence, but also warmth that would like made me believe that like people would just listen to what he said and trust him and believe he was a good guy. I feel like he communicated that very well in a way that made that part of the movie really work. And then actually, and like that conversation between him and an evil Colin Firth, I actually really loved that part of the movie. There were kind of like bumpy bits of it where, where the empathy, the aliens and empathy, and aliens will teach us empathy part message of the movie, that's a little bit bumpy in terms of the dialogue in that scene. But I think that goes over well. I really loved that scene. I felt it really kind of captured Spielberg's kind of whole worldview on his belief, I guess, in aliens and his hopes maybe for what aliens are like. I feel like it all kind of played out in kind of miniature in that one conversation. And I found that quite, maybe not moving, but it gave me a kind of nice warm feeling. And, and I think, once Emily Blunt and Josh O'Connor's characters kind of hook up and we see their connection, I feel like, which is like maybe necessarily much stronger than the one he has with his girlfriend, or that she has with her boyfriend, I guess. Like they, then I think the movie starts to kind of really sing, and I do feel like he's executing his ideas about alien life and what it can teach us in a effective way. And I actually kind of like something that I was kind of 50-50 on at first, but then kind of really came to like was like the moment where the footage is finally aired on TV, and you have that like news anchor, I guess she's supposed to be from New York, and like she's giving a lot of exposition, right? And it's just like, oh, and this is what this alien crash was, and this one, and here's, and it's like, it's sort of like redundant and overdetermined in a way, but then also like the performance and the way she's showing us the process of how humans are going to confront and deal with this information. in a way that's actually much more complex than Colin Firth's character thought what was going to happen. You know, like there were just a lot of parts, like when the alien stuff really came into the forefront, that I thought was done in Spielberg's way at a high level.
See, that's okay. I agree with you on the highlights of the movie in general. I think Emily Blunt deserves an Oscar nomination for this movie. I'm not saying that like Coleman Domingo. It's the actors are trying really hard, and Coleman Domingo makes the best with what he is given to do, which is mostly just like explain what's happening, like very expository kind of dialogue, and not the way that like human beings talk. I think where I'm most disappointed is exactly the like opposite of your reaction, which is that I love the Spielberg schmaltz, as we'll call it. Like the scene in Jurassic Park when they're like flying away in the helicopter and they look out and see the like egret like flying by the helicopter. Like, love it. You know, give it to me, put it in my veins. I was waiting for that and I never felt it with this movie. Like I was waiting for my moment of like Spielberg, feel good, gets you in the feelings, schmaltz to wash over me, and like I kept waiting for it, and it just like never happened. And I don't understand the conclusion. I'm like, why? Like, how is this going to make us more empathetic? Like, what did you do to earn that? I don't like, sure, great, but like Independence Day makes the same point and it makes it better, frankly, right? This idea that like aliens can be a unifying thing for humanity. Like, you know, the speech, what's his name? Bill Pullman's speech in Independence Day is like great. Like that does it better. I just like nothing in this movie. Well, first of all, I feel like it can't hold a thought in its head for more than 5 seconds. Like it just, as soon as it gets interesting to me, it moves on to something else. And I'm like, come on. Like when it tries to explore religion, I'm like, okay, there's this moment. I'll use this as kind of the embodiment of this for me, right? There's this moment where like one of the followers of this like weird emerging alien cult that like helps Emily Blunt, like looks at her as though she's the Messiah. And she's like, I will not be anybody's religion. And I'm like, where the fuck is this coming from? Like, this is not in the script. Like, I get that would happen, but you have to like earn that and like make it make sense to me that suddenly this person is looking at Emily Blunt as though she's like a prophet, right? Like, and instead it's just sort of like there, and you're supposed to be like, ooh, profound. And then they move on to something else with like weird magic alien stick that does things that I don't quite understand. That's my frustration, right? Is that while AI has a couple things that it wants to say and just like keeps hammering in on those things, Disclosure Day feels like Spielberg wanting to say everything he's ever thought about aliens and then saying them all at once, and nothing builds. I didn't learn anything here aside from the fact that this guy really actually does believe that like Roswell really happened and that eventually the government will disclose the existence of aliens and that religion will be okay because of like this one line in Genesis. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, the religion angle felt very shoehorned into me, like the whole Catholicism thing.
Oh my God.
Like,
and that's like my wheelhouse. So that, you know, obviously that sort of specifically, right? That
was interested to hear your thoughts on that precisely for that reason. But like it just seemed like, it almost seemed kind of pandering. Like we just need to deal with this question of religion. And so we're going to do it in this kind of like, ham-handed way.
Get Elizabeth Marvel on the phone so that we can figure out.
Yeah, it felt like almost like that whole sub not even subplot, but like sub-issue.
Sub-issue, yeah.
Like only really existed to get those lines out of Elizabeth Marvel. You know, like her line about like why would we be alone in the universe? Why would God make us alone in the universe? Like, I think just to have that one line that, as you said, is beautifully delivered. Like, it seems like that's the whole reason that angle of the movie exists at all. And so like I said, like Daniel's relationship with Jane is not interesting at all. And like, I think, you know, like when she's kind of making the case that like, when she's not on board at first and is saying like, this is going to destroy civilization if you reveal this information, because will, you know, like society will collapse because people's priors will just be so challenged. And that scene where they're having that debate just felt really, you know, like there is a lot of clunky writing in here. And like that felt clunky, and it was kind of shot in this very kind of stylized way that seemed, you know, like there are definitely parts of it that are kind of like ham-handed. The "I won't be anyone's religion" line, I actually saw that. I liked that because I felt I didn't focus so much on like what this woman was experiencing, like why she decided to react that way, but more like what it meant for Emily Blunt's character. Because I think there's like her character is on this really interesting journey where on one level she says like, I'm in the flow, I'm in something bigger than myself, it's great. And then she's like, I know everything about everyone, this is horrible, and I want my own autonomy and agency back. You know, I don't want to be just this vessel for messages or for empathy. And so I felt like that is kind of a part of the kind of breakdown she has before she's willing to go back and remember her abduction. That seemed more in service of her than it did than anything else, which maybe it shouldn't have been. But
yeah, it just, to me, like it hinted at something much more interesting that I wanted an exploration of, but it never gave me. And I think like, so speaking of priors, right? I think my aversion to this movie before it even came out was that I think that, first of all, calling a movie this in this sort of political social atmosphere is like incredibly irresponsible. Because the concept of Disclosure Day is a, you know, like David Icke, like right-wing weird fringe notion that the government has been hiding aliens from us for the last, 70, 80 years. And that we're eventually going to get to this day where like some white hat hacker or something is going to disclose everything to mankind, and then finally will not have death anymore or whatever. Right. And it's a huge like underlier of conspiracism, and like just going headlong into that without really any sense that like any of those beliefs are wrong or incorrect, or just actually validating them all. If you're going to do that, as far as I'm concerned, like I think you have to have a really good reason for it. And none of this felt like a good reason, aside from the fact that like Steven Spielberg is like 80 something or whatever. And he wants he wants to say his last word about aliens existing and what that means. And he doesn't really care about what the consequences are. Right. So like that also bothered me. I just think it's like not a movie that says, no, you're right about Roswell. Like you have to handle that the right way. The X-Files handles it the right way for all the X-Files faults. Right. But the X-Files exists in this kind of like wink nod sort of, almost kind of ironic, like world of conspiracism where everything is true, but like that's kind of the world. Whereas this is a movie that is like, it's all true. And also magic cardinals. Like, I don't know. It's just, I just feel like if you're going to do something, if you're going to take this big of a swing, then like fucking find a pitch to swing at. You know what I mean? Like that's the frustration to me.
Yeah, I think I had the same reservation about like the kind of responsibility of of endorsing these like saying aliens exist by saying aliens exist in exactly the way everybody already thinks they do.
Right.
You know,
right.
And like the contemporary political balances of this, you know, it's a fiction movie, but it was just kind of like, it's a little gross. But I guess that was sort of like, I guess like I did feel like I felt the kind of moments where the kind of true Spielbergian wonder at the possibility of other life and of connecting with it. I felt like there were moments where that did really shine through for me, and that kind of sort of counteracted the ickiness that I felt from that part of the movie. And on another level, in terms of what are the contemporary political resonances of the movie, like even though empathy as a concept can be kind of schmaltzy, you know, like we're in a situation where the richest man in the world is constantly shouting off about the West's suicidal empathy and how it's ruining civilization and stuff like this. And so like the kind of way it portrayed empathy felt like good Spielberg schmaltz to me, and, you know, warmed the cockles a little bit.
but okay. So to me, the Spielberg schmaltz aliens exist element is way better done in Contact, and the whole sort of like empathy, aliens, world peace stuff is better done in Arrival, and it's like much better done in Arrival. And so like, why does this movie exist? Like, that's the thing. It's like there's just nothing new that's being said here, and it just feels so indulgent. And like, I didn't really understand, like, the movie didn't earn for me this notion that like empathy something like, why? What? Like, what changed? I don't, you know, that she says listen at the end, or that she can speak different languages now, and like that. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? You know, like, how do I take what I just saw and change the way I think? Like, I will say that when I saw AI 25 years ago, it did really affect my life. Like, it really affected the way that I think about things, and the way that I think about like the meaning of life and death, and like, you know, the desire for immortality and the afterlife. And all. Like, I thought like it was a profound impact of the way that I think about things. And this movie, I'm like, what? Like, what am I supposed to think? I don't listen to Emily Blunt more. I get, like, I don't know. I didn't get it. I didn't get what it was selling me. I wasn't sure it was selling me anything.
Yeah, I think maybe this is also down to like different expectations. Like, I did not expect a lot of deep thoughts from this movie.
Well, I also told you it sucked before you saw it, so that probably like helped, you know, temper your expectations a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, like, for me, the way empathy is interesting in the movie is through Emily Blunt's performance.
Yeah, the only good thing. It's really good. It's really, really good. She's amazing.
Because like, she has this kind of core strength to her that like she could never play this part stereotypically as like a ditzy anchor woman who then becomes just kind of weird and dippy because she's getting all these messages and all this information in her head. And so like, it's a lot of times it's like deeply funny to me the way she's processing that empathy, you know, like when she's the scene where she's like translating the Korean, you know, that's cute.
Yeah.
But like even in that moment where I was like, where she's talking to the woman who works at the TV station who's presumably being domestically abused, and she's saying it's time to call the cops. Like, even the way she said like it's time to call the cops was like quite funny.
That's
even
true.
Though, even though that's like a super serious situation, like the fact that she could give so much texture, and like the fact that empathy is hard too, that empathy is a hard burden for her in a way. And like the question of empathy and losing this, like whether empathy means losing yourself in some way, like that, it was kind of through her character that message came across most strongly to me and in the most interesting way.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I just don't think
it's enough.
It did what it's not enough. Like, it just didn't do what I think it thought it was doing. I mean, okay, the magic alien stick. What? Okay, it can turn things invisible, but not inaudible. Like, why? I don't understand. Like, what are its weird limitations? It can like teleport, I guess. I didn't understand like the fact that so much of this movie revolves around the magic alien stick, and it's such a Deus Ex Machina device that I was like, that made me mad.
Yeah,
it can do so many things except not make you hear stuff, which is important for this one scene where they're escaping from this house. That to me is like emblematic of how underthought this movie is.
I mean, Margaret is also a huge Deus Ex Machina too, right? Like, she can just read people's mind, like she can just do anything. And like,
yeah.
Did you not like Colin Firth in this?
No. I thought he sucked. Like, no, it's like, it was just Colin Firth being Colin Firth. Like, he didn't suck, but just like, there's nothing to this character. Like, I didn't really see any real transformation in him. I didn't understand his motivations. Like, nothing. Like, he goes from like being very sinister and kind of bought in. Like, if it had decided to focus, it's weird that this like movie that's supposedly about empathy and like listening, like refuses again to like let one of its characters live and like and have a story and have an arc. Like, it's so bizarre. But no, Colin Firth just felt very like, that could have been anybody. I like Colin Firth. I'll watch him do stuff. Like, I enjoy when he's in movies, but like, it's character and performance meant nothing to me, like whatsoever. I just interchangeable with any other good actor, honestly.
His wife died.
And it made him sad. It made him sad.
What happened,
That's
John.
true.
What more do you want? What more could you possibly need? No, I thought again, like I don't know how much I can totally defend this movie, but like there's a good hammy side to it. There is good Colin Firth sad eyes parts to it.
I mean, if you like looking at Colin Firth being like empathetic and sad and like, sure, I guess that's sure. You get sad-eyed Colin Firth quite a bit, but then also like evil Colin Firth who's coming for your boyfriend through weird teleportation skills that he has with the magic alien stick, which can do that. So yeah, I think we've touched on it a little bit already, but I do think maybe the screenplay is the weakest part of the movie. Oh, for sure. Like, I mean, look, David Cope is David Cope is very good at doing the stuff of screenplays that does not involve dialogue. Like, and I don't mean that as a slight. Like, he actually he's very good at like making, like, typically anyway, is very good at like the movie stuff, right? Like the storytelling stuff. Like, he's very good at the movies that he makes, right, are very good at like building tension and world building and all that sort of thing. Like, he's not a dialogue writer, and this movie rests way too hard on dialogue. And that is one of its real flaws. Yeah,
for sure.
Like, and then there's also just a random like train sequence, which I'm like, why is this in this movie?
Yeah. I know. Well, yeah. I guess maybe this gets back to me not expecting so much thought from the movie, but like, in terms of the movie not starting off that strong, I feel like there's no real good action sequence until maybe about 20 minutes in, and then that train sequence just kind of felt a little underwhelming. It felt like it should have been higher state. Like they're climbing out of a car that's like pinned to the side of a train and trying to get on the train. Like that should be more exciting than it was, I think.
I hate to be like, anti CGI grandpa, because I'm not, but like that needed more practical effects. Like it really did. Like it just didn't feel like it was very well like created digitally, but like it didn't feel like there was any real stakes to it. And I think that was a big part of why, right? It just did not do enough with like standard stunt work there. It needed a bit more like Mission Impossible zhuzh. And especially if you're going to throw that in for no reason other than to like keep people entertained for a few more minutes, which is like really why it felt like it was there. Like AI doesn't really have any big action set pieces, right? There isn't like a big chase scene in the middle of it. Like there's the scene where he steals the police helicopter or whatever, but like that's pretty much it. And like, it just doesn't feel like it really has any place in that particular movie. And also I have to say this, like, boy, is John Williams phoning this one in. I like when you can't readily identify a single leitmotif in a John Williams score, like it is not good. And this is all just like dun 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 dun, and like it's, and then like weird eerie sounds, and again the guy is in his like mid-90s, but that's like John Williams can save a lot of a movie when he works his magic, but like there is no magic here being worked by John Williams. Alas, I found the score unremarkable in every sense of the word.
I can't remember a single thing about it.
Not a thing. I can't remember a goddamn note of that, and like that is shocking, right? That would happen to, like, I don't know if you've ever seen the movies that made us about Home Alone, which is, it's like one of the best episodes of that series. But like when Chris Columbus, speaking of Bicentennial Man, see, it all ties together. When Chris Columbus is talking about seeing the movie with the John Williams score for the first time, he's like, what the fuck is this? He's like, oh my God, what movie did we make? Because he was like, I had no idea it was this good, because like he thought he'd made a sort of like family chaos comedy, and John Williams was like, I'm going to invent a new iconic Christmas theme. for your movie about a kid like nearly murdering two thieves in his home, and it's hilarious, but also like a real testament to like what John Williams does. Like he sees a movie and he's like, okay, here's what it sounds like, and then the director is like, holy shit. And none of that magic in Disclosure Day, alas.
Yeah, I also agree with you. I just wanted to second in what you say about it looking like shit. It always bothers me a bit, but that's so the norm these days.
Oh God, it kills me.
That kind of like washed out.
Bring back color in movies. Fucking Christ. Like it's like, I don't know what the obsession is, honestly. Like all of the latter Harry Potter movies like are allergic to color. Yeah, it just is so weird. It's such a weird, I don't know. Does it make people think it looks more prestigious? I don't know what it is. I don't know what the appeal of that is, but
everything looks like a police procedural now.
I think police procedurals like look better.
Yeah.
I think they are more cheerful and colorful than the average movie is. I mean, even like, I was just watching House of the Dragon, and like there's even like entire stretches of that series where they're just like, no colors. Colors are not serious.
Colors are for pussies.
And this is a serious program. I do feel like there is a little bit of a a reaction to that happening as well. Like I'm thinking of like so the same thing's true of the Odyssey, right? Where it's like Christopher Nolan also hates colors. And that's another one of those recent movies that is just sort of like, does it have to be this drab? But then I also think of like, like the new Spider-Man movie, which is like aggressively colorful, and not using that sort of like washed out kind of aesthetic. But I think Kaminsky has gotten worse with this over time, and I really feel that like he kind of got addicted to it with Minority Report, where it kind of made sense. Like Minority Report's aesthetic is very much like part of the movie, and it works for that movie, but then it just sort of, he kind of like kept doubling down on it, and it just doesn't work for this. It needs to be more. If it's a movie that is like like if it's trying to be optimistic and sort of, enlightening or whatever, like it needs more colors.
Yeah, it doesn't suggest wonder, really, does it?
It does not. I mean, it is like the place where it works is like when you have the cool sort of like clashing of contrasts, like when he's in the like teleportation chair thing, and then you have the like flooding white lights against the sort of like drab colors. Like that's cool, and that is a cool effect, but like you really just don't need the whole movie to look like everything is sad all the time. Nor do you need all movies to look like that. So like, again, people, it's okay to have vibrant, bright colors in movies, or just shoot in black and white if you're not going to be, like commit to something.
Yeah. So yeah, Disclosure Day, go in with low expectations and you might like parts of it.
And if you go in with very low expectations, they will all be met. Or you might like parts of it. I don't know. It's funny because I have not met anybody who like genuinely liked it. I did read that one very long essay about empathy, and I was like, "That's a good essay." I'm not sure if this describes the movie I saw, but yeah. Anyway, Disclosure Day probably available for a lot of money on streaming now, but I'm sure it'll be readily available soon. And if you got Paramount Plus, you can watch AI for free right now. So if you haven't seen it, go see it. All right. I think that wraps it up for us this time. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. I could yell more about
Yep.
Disclosure Day, but I'm not going to. All right. That's other stuff that bothers me. But I will. You get the point. I don't like it. All right. You can find us on social media at Blue Sky at 1999 the podcast. You can find me at John Brooks. You can find Julia at Julia Sermons. And we'll be back to regularly scheduled episodes in a couple weeks. See you later. And listen. All right.
Cut to black.
Cut to black.
Podcast to black.